I've been doing a ton of traveling back and forth from Virginia to California lately, and every time that I used to get on a plane, I would absolutely get sick. And not even just a little sniffle, right? I mean, like really sick, feverish, wiped out for days kind of sick. Like there was this one trip that where I flew from Florida to California and I ended up laying on my best friend's bedroom. I remember this very vividly, and I was like shivering under a blanket and I was like, why does my body fall apart every time I travel? And here's the thing, I do have an autoimmune condition. I'm fairly sensitive. I need a lot of rest. I am a creature of routine and comfort. And so travel kind of always felt like this marathon that I was doing but never really trained for. So like physically and energetically, emotionally and mentally, I would travel and then my entire system would sort of just collapse. But once I started studying herbalism and I started to actually understand my patterns and supporting my system and learning what it looked like to support my system, my relationship to travel changed. And I actually have built a travel kit that I take with me anytime I travel, and it actually supports my body, and I almost never get sick from traveling anymore. So today I want to share that with you, not just what is in my travel bag, but also how as an herbalist I think about immunity, and hopefully that will give you some ideas about how to create a travel kit that is perfect for you and your needs as well. If you are new here, my name is Kristen. I am an herbalist. I'm here to help you learn how to bring plant medicine into your life and think about your wellness from the perspective of holistic medicine. And so, today we're talking a lot about immunity. And most people think of immunity as sort of like this switch that we turn on and off. We try to boost our immune system, or we assume that we're like fighting some kind of cootie or that we're like totally fine. And it's very all or nothing the way that we think about it. But in plant medicine and in holistic medicine, we don't really see immunity as a switch. We see it more like a constellation, right? A whole constellation of different systems lighting up and communicating with each other. We have our mucous membranes on a more practical level. Like they act like sticky fly paper. They trap foreign particles, before they can actually get into the rest of the system. We have our digestive system, and that's just not about food. Our digestive system is also constantly breaking down pathogens and eliminating waste so that our body isn't overloaded. And then so things that we get in from our food or from our environment through our mouth are not actually making us sick. We also have our stress response. That's a pretty important piece of the puzzle as well, because when it's activated for long periods of time, it can actually dampen parts of your immune defense and make you a little bit more susceptible, to the little things that start to go around. And then of course we have our lymphatic system, and that's basically like our internal drainage and surveillance network. And all of these systems are basically like stars in the same sky. And when they are communicating clearly, when they're working together, that is when we have something called resilience. And usually that comes from routine, from behaviors that just keep us well. But when we're traveling, travel kind of scrambles that constellation, especially if you are already stressed, if you're already sensitive, if you have an autoimmune condition, or if you're just living the way most of us live, which is slightly overwhelmed and under-resourced. So when you travel, you get dehydrated because you're probably thinking about drinking water less. Your circadian rhythm gets thrown off, your digestion slows way down, you're probably overstimulated, you're underslept, you're rushing, you're carrying heavy bags, you're eating weird travel food, you don't have a total control over what food you might normally have access to. And of course, we also are usually traveling in these big public social spaces. So we are exposed to more pathogens than if we were just staying at home. And so our exposure to other people is just skyrocketing. And it's not that travel makes you sick per se, it's that all of these factors together are going to weaken that constellation just enough so that whatever you bump into has an easier time kind of taking hold in your body. So when we talk about herbs for travel, I'm thinking not necessarily in terms of like boosting immunity or sort of like taking a green pill version of airborne. I'm thinking more so about supporting the system, supporting the constellation in the context that the constellation is actually living in. And that systems mindset right there is really one of the things that makes plant medicine so powerful and so different. And if you are new to that kind of systems thinking about your wellness, we really do dive deep into that in the Everyday Herbalist certification, because understanding our patterns is absolutely key to using herbs in a way that actually works. But for today, we'll talk more about that another day. But for today, I really want to take you into the constellation, my constellation of immunity and the herbs that I personally travel with, why they work for my body, and how you can use them to support your constellation too. And it's probably not going to come as a surprise to anyone, but the first herb that I always travel with, even if I leave all of the other ones behind, is going to be Echinacea. Echinacea angustifolia or Echinacea purpurea. Sometimes I'll travel with a combination of both. And the biggest thing to know about Echinacea, because it's really kind of one of our gateway herbs, is that Echinacea is not a curative herb, it is a prevention herb. And Echinacea, the way that it works is actually really cool. It actually stimulates the production and activity of your white blood cells. Those are like the little Miss Pac-Man cells that are running around eating cooties before they can take hold of the body and replicate, in the body, like viruses and stuff. It actually is going to wake up the part of your immune constellation that says, hey, pay attention, something is here or something might be coming in and we need to do some work. And so here is how you want to use it, because you don't want to take it once you're already sick. It's not going to do what you think it's going to do. Instead, I will take a dose before I go to the airport. I will usually take another dose, and I'm talking like 2 to 3 dropperfuls. I'll take another dose while I'm at the airport, maybe when I'm on the plane, and then I probably will take another one after the flight. And if I'm doing a ton more travel after that, maybe I'll take another dose the next day. But I really only take like 4 to 5 doses within 1 to 2 days. Maybe a few more doses over the next few days if I'm starting to feel like really depleted and run down. But mostly I just take it in that small chunk of time, because that immune boost, that white blood cell production boost, is not going to last forever. We really only have maybe a 3 to 5 day window to boost the immune system in an effective way to fight off any potential invaders. So this is not something that you can take if you are already sick. If you start to feel a slight tickle in your throat, if you're starting to feel a little bit depleted because you're staying up way too late, too much is going on, that's a good time to take it. You want to take it before you get to the airport. You want to take it, oh, I know that I'm going into a classroom and there are a bunch of kids who are probably all going to have colds and flus. That's when you want to take Echinacea, not when you are already sick. Sometimes I'll also take it when I am exposed to someone who I know is ill, so that my immune system gets boosted, and it makes a huge difference in how often I get sick. And so it's absolutely one that I'm going to travel with all the time. And so those small frequent doses during exposure or before an exposure, that's really where Echinacea is going to shine. But again, if you're fully sick, fever, runny nose, the whole gamut, it's not going to do anything. Don't even bother with it. So Echinacea is my travel day protector because it's going to support that resilience. It's going to keep the immune constellation kind of alert even as I become more and more depleted from travel. And it really has saved me so much from getting sick pretty much every time I travel. And so the next herb that I'm going to bring into my herb kit is elderberry. And I often travel with elderberry, and I will often take elderberry and echinacea at the same time. And I will be honest with you, this one is definitely going to be less dramatic for me. I don't feel a huge shift when I take elderberry, but it is still part of my travel kit just in case, right? It's a gentle immune nourisher. It's not stimulating. It's not particularly activating or intense. It's sort of like building and protective. It's energetically, it's a little bit cooling, a little bit moistening. And so it can really help keep our mucous membranes supported, which remember from the constellation of our immunity metaphor, your mucous membranes are a pretty major part of your frontline immunity. And what it also does really beautifully is help to tone the cells in your respiratory tract specifically so that viruses have a harder time getting inside. And it can also support your body's cytokine signaling, which again is just a fancy way of saying that it's going to help your immune system communicate a little bit more clearly. Plus, the berries are pretty antiviral, as I mentioned. They're high in vitamin C, they're high in vitamin A, and so they have been used forever for things like colds and flus and upper respiratory tract infections, all those kind of classic travel cooties that we might be exposed to. And I don't reach for elderberry because I feel like a huge physical shift. I do it because it's more of like a baseline builder. This might be something depending on what travel I'm engaging in, depending on if I'm going to be like one time we went on a cruise, so I took elderberry every single day. But if I'm just like going to visit a friend, I might not take elderberry every day, maybe just for a couple of days. And it's just something that helps me feel like I'm adding in back that building and nourishing piece, because as a person with some chronic illness and who just like needs her routine, it just helps me feel like I'm nourishing myself during a time where I'm probably going to not be sleeping as well and not eating as well and generally being depleted by the experience of travel. And honestly, I do think that there's a little bit of a mindset piece here too. You know, when I'm out of routine, when I'm feeling like a little vulnerable, elderberry does give me that sense that I'm fortifying myself. Like, okay, I'm doing the supportive thing. I'm holding on to my sense of resilience. And I think that really matters. The nervous system does respond to feeling supported. And then I do always pair elderberry with ginger when I travel, or in general. I just think that they go together really well. It does help to balance elderberry's cooling and moistening nature, and they're just a good duo. And I think that for both echinacea and elderberry, or elderberry/ginger, I prefer them when I'm traveling as a tincture. Having it in tincture form just makes it so much easier to dose up in large quantities, like I like to take them when I'm traveling. Those two herbs, elderberry and echinacea, are directly going to target aspects of the immune system that are directly interfacing with like the foreign bacteria and viruses and stuff that we're going to come in contact, the things that actually are going to create the sickness in our body. And this next herb is one that I want to bring in to bolster the nervous system, because how our nervous system is functioning and how much stress we are under, which is going to deplete us, is going to inform whether or not we get sick as well. And so the next one that I'm going to bring in is lavender, specifically lavender capsules. I talk about these a lot because they are so beneficial for our nervous system and for many of us who might be a little bit less resilient and have a little bit more anxiety. So these lavender capsules are specifically the Calm Aid lavender capsules, and the Calm Aid brand is, I think it's Nature's Way is the brand, Calm Aid is the product name. They actually use a standardized extract of lavender called Selexin. And there are multiple studies that show that this form of lavender can be as effective as low dose benzos for anxiety. And it sounds dramatic for an herb we usually associate with like bedtime and bath salts and sleepy time, but lavender is pretty serious nervous system medicine. And one of the reasons lavender works so well in comparison to benzos is because it does, just like benzos, directly influence aspects of our GABA system. And this is part of the brain chemistry responsible for basically calming you down and having like quiet thoughts, for easing tension, for quieting those internal alarms and helping you shift out of that like I'm under threat feeling. Benzos, as I said, also work on the GABA system, but they really hit like a hammer. I'm saying this very significantly with my sister, who sometimes we can give her lavender, sometimes we give her benzos. They work a little bit differently, but the benzos just like really snap her in and out of different states in a really interesting way. In that way, they can stimulate dependency, not just physiologically, but psychologically as well. So lavender is just going to be something that's a little bit softer. It's going to help to soothe some of that baseline anxiety that we have, but without sedating you or without making you feel foggy and groggy, and without like creating any kind of psychological or physiological dependency, which is really important if you want to just really stay clear of anything that could potentially cause addiction. And as a person who comes from a family who has a strong history of addiction, that is really important to me. Now, energetically, lavender is cooling, it's relaxing, it's going to help unwind tension throughout the body, it's going to help calm any of that mental chatter. And if you're just like feeling agitated, it can keep things really chill. And travel is a really big nervous system stressor, even when it's exciting or positive. Those airports, those crowds, new noises, new environments, like you're doing a lot of rushing, you have to do a lot of weird time issues. Your system is processing a lot of stimulation all at once, and very sensitive people, sensitive bodies especially, can get pushed into that fight or flight pretty quickly. Plus, if you're flying, as chill as I am with flying, there's always like that stress part of like landing and flying and like, oh no, what if you crash? And like the weird thoughts that you're gonna have no matter how chill you are with flying. And so just popping a lavender pill when I get on a plane just like helps me keep calm. Right? It helps me keep chill throughout my time. And of course, lavender is something that I also like to use during periods of high stress and anxiety when I just like need that little support and that little bolster. And the best part is that lavender is versatile. If you don't like maybe the lavender burps that come with the Calmade capsule, you can use essential oil on your pillow or in your perfume. You have a ton of lavender products like lavender shampoos and lavender body washes that you can be using in your daily life to just get some of that support. It's not going to work the same as if you were to actually take it internally. I don't suggest just taking lavender essential oil. I do suggest taking a well-formulated standardized extract so that you just don't mess up your liver and you don't do anything weird. But to each their own. You're going to do what you're going to do as long as I said it. But yeah, it's just like a gentle grounded anchor in my travel kit that supports my nervous system so that I can just stay resilient and bolstered during a stressful time. It's one of those things that tells us, hey, you are safe. You can breathe, you can soften, you can relax, you are not in danger. And so while Echinacea is my protector and Elderberry is my builder, lavender is really my regulator. The herb that keeps my nervous system from unraveling when I'm out of routine. Now, another thing that I always travel with are my bitters. And honestly, if you have ever traveled and immediately had like weird digestive or gut issues, you're just not alone. Some people get constipation, some people get diarrhea, some people get gas and bloating, people lose their appetite, people get nausea, people get that weird airport stomach where everything just feels off. Travel throws my digestive system out in so many ways. Things usually, because I'm stressed, have a tendency to just get slow and a little bit sluggish, and things just feel weird for a couple of days. There's new food, there's weird timing, dehydration, stress, there's sitting too long, it's disrupted circadian rhythms, especially if I'm traveling to the other side of the country, which I've been doing a lot lately. And all of those things are going to affect your motility, affect your enzymes, your bile flow, your stomach acid. We're actually going to dive into an entire digestive series over the next month. And I'm going to talk a ton more about this because it's something I get questions about all the time. If that's something you're interested in, leave me a little comment that says digestive series so that I know that I'm like actually meeting your needs and not just making topics up randomly. So anyways, I also personally have some gallbladder issues. And if I'm not careful because of that, I can have some pretty sluggish digestion. And things don't stop completely, but I do need help, especially when I'm traveling. So if I don't support my digestion while I'm traveling, I super duper feel it. And if I do support it, drinking a lot of water, just trying to eat more vegetables and stuff, I usually am totally fine. But I also am going to work with my bitters. So what are bitters? I talk about bitters all the time. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a full-on bitters episode because they are such an important topic. But essentially, bitters are any remedy that actually tastes bitters. There are usually herbs that are common culprits like gentian and artichoke, and then some more mild ones like burdock and dandelion and yellow dock, chamomile, even citrus peel is a nice bitter that is commonly used in tasty medicines. The most important thing is that it's the bitter taste that is the medicine. And when the bitter receptors hit your tongue, and so when bitter receptors are activated by the taste of bitter, you actually have to put them on your tongue. We have bitter receptors all over our body, but to get the benefits of bitters, you need to actually taste them. It needs to like go to your brain, like, okay, this is bitter. It sends a message from the brain to the rest of your body and your digestive system that's like, hey, wake up, it's time to digest something. And so that message is going to trigger a huge cascade: more stomach acid, more digestive enzymes, more bile flow, more bile production, better motility of actual movement through the digestive system, better blood flow to the gut, even better absorption of all of your vitamins and your minerals and all of the above. It's kind of like flipping the on switch on for digestion. And it's why bitters are so good for travel. Because when your digestive system is sluggish, or it's stressed, or it's confused by new foods, bitters are going to help your system remember what to do. And they're also going to be really helpful for people like me who have gallbladder issues, who have slow gallbladder action, or who just don't break down fats as well. So a little bitter before or during or even after a meal is going to help everything move better. And my favorite travel bitters, I like something really strong. So something with gentian, burdock, maybe dandelion, yellow dock a little bit if you struggle with constipation while you're traveling, and then something like chamomile, which is a very gentle bitter because of its aromatic qualities and because of its essential oil qualities and its nervine properties. It can just like help relax the entire system when things are just feeling a little bit tense. I usually take a few drops of bitter tincture before airport meals or weird snacks, or anytime I just feel like my digestion is shutting down from stress or from sitting too long. I usually like it in a spray. I'll usually take a spray of bitters onto my tongue, maybe a couple while I'm eating a meal, or if people are drinking and I don't really want to drink, I'll have a bitter mocktail, which is usually just a bunch of bitters in some sparkling water, something. It makes me feel like I'm actually drinking with people, even though I'm just supporting my digestive system. And so for my body, especially with my sluggish gallbladder, travel bitters are a huge must. And they're really one of the main reasons that I can eat on the road and actually feel okay afterward. So we really are hitting something for the full travel constellation here. For me, it's Echinacea, it's Elderberry to help build, Lavender to help me regulate, and then of course bitters. Just in case my digestion is a little bit off, it makes a huge difference. Okay, so I know that I said that I have 5 herbs that I travel with, but I lied, because the laxing is not actually an herb, it's a practice. And it's actually probably one of the biggest reasons that I used to get sick when I used to travel. And it's because travel is really stressful for me. I am sensitive. I'm a routine lover. I have autoimmune stuff, which I didn't always know about. And when you take a body like mine and you throw it into airports with weird food and noise and rushing and time changes and dehydration, it really does take a toll. But for years, I would do all of that. I would come home, I'd immediately jump back into my life, no pause, no buffer, no integration, just landing, do my laundry, go to work, do some errands, try to be a functioning adult. And my nervous system was like, excuse me, we did not sign up for this. We are very, very tired. And then my body would just completely crash. And that crash basically looked like getting sick during every trip and then again after every trip. And when I finally realized this pattern, that the lack of recovery was one of the things that was wrecking me, a lot of things changed in my life, but especially my travel. And so now I actually build rest into my travel plans. I rest before I leave, I rest when I get home, and I just give myself like the extra exhale that it needs after all that stimulation. If I'm gone for a few days, I need like at least one day between when I get home and when I have to like jump back into my life. I need at least a whole day of nothing when I return. I fly home Sunday, I rest Monday, and I'm a functioning human again by Tuesday. And I know that that's not possible for everyone. You know, the social pressures of work and money and family and community, they're all very real. And most of us aren't actually given the buffer in our Western culture that we actually need to recover. But that doesn't change the truth. My body, and probably your body, body stays healthier when you include rest in the travel process. And I'm sharing this not as a moral prescription, but just part of my constellation, the thing that shifted my travel experience just as much as echinacea or bitters. Because it's really not all about herbs, it's about how we are living our lives and how we are creating culture. So everything that I've shared here today, the herbs, the nervous system pieces, the digestion support, the rest. These things are things that I learned through my body and through relationship with plant medicine. It's not through protocols that I just got off the internet. It's not through memorizing lists, but by actually paying attention to how plants interact with my body and the bodies of my clients. And so if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, I want to build my own travel kit, but I don't know actually which herbs make sense for me, I have 2 beautiful classes that could support you. If you want something simple and totally doable, start with the 7-day apothecary. You are going to learn 10 core herbs, including some that we talked about today in much more depth, and you are going to get to match them to the exact issues in your body and in your life. And it's a huge confidence builder. It helps you understand, oh, okay, my digestion does this, or my immune system needs that. But if you're like, no, I want the whole system, I am ready to dive in. I want to understand my patterns and my energetics, why I get the symptoms that I get, how herbs actually relate to my body, then you want the actual everyday herbalist certification. And inside that program, we actually build your first aid kit together, step by step. And once you understand your constitution and your patterns, adapting that kit into a mini travel kit is going to become so easy and so intuitive. So just choose whichever course matches the season that you are in. And either way, you are going to come out feeling more resourced, more supported, and more in relationship with your own body and with the plants. All right, so that was our main topic for today. Now let's switch gears and answer a listener question. Actually, it's not a listener question. This is a question that I found on the internet while I was browsing around Reddit, and I just had to bring it here because it was such a good example of 1, how powerful herbs are, and 2, why we really need to be in community. So this question is actually coming from a Reddit user on the Our Herbalism Reddit feed, and their name is Softy Fairy, and they just quit smoking. They started drinking mullein tea to support their lungs, which is super cool, and now they are coughing up a ton of gunk, like a shocking amount. And they were just like, okay, is this normal? And first, I just want to say that I love that they listened to their body. I love that they were like, I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to drink mullein to help support my lungs. I think that that's super cool because I just love it when people are taking good care of themselves. And like no moral judgment on whether or not you smoke or do anything that we're quote unquote not supposed to do. Living is hard. And if you have those little quote unquote vices, you do you, whatever you're going to do. But if you are ready to stop them, plant medicine can be really helpful to make that happen. And so this user started to drink their mullein and is literally like, is this normal? Should I go to the doctor about this? And I just want to say, yes. Coughing up a whole bunch of gunk after quitting smoking and drinking mullein every day, especially if it's a strong tea, is going to honestly be one of the things that I expect. When you stop smoking, first of all, your lungs actually have some time and space to start repairing themselves. Smoking is going to dry out and irritate that respiratory tissue. And it basically is like it's going to glue down mucus that your lungs haven't been able to clear for a very long time. So when you add mullein to that, especially, as I said, a strong tea, you are adding moisture and softness and probably some movement into the lungs. Mullein is cooling, mullein is moistening, and it's a pretty significant expectorant, which means that it's going to help to expel things from the lungs. It doesn't create mucus, but it is going to help mobilize and release the mucus that is already there. So yeah, you're probably going to cough a whole bunch of stuff up. And I would expect it to be kind of thick. I would expect it to be kind of gross. I would expect it to have some weird colors in it. It's kind of like your lungs are detoxing and waking back up. I would expect it, especially if you're a longtime smoker, for it to also be kind of uncomfortable. When we're dealing with the respiratory system, them. There are a couple of categories that I'll talk a lot about, like demulcents. These are going to be herbs that soothe and hydrate and protect tissues, and expectorants, herbs that help you move stuff out. And mullein does both. To make this a little bit more comfortable, I might add some marshmallow leaf. I talk a lot about marshmallow root, but for this case, I'd probably add a little bit of marshmallow leaf. That's going to continue to help soothe and hydrate, a much more strong demulcent property. But mullein alone is going to do great things. It does both. It's going to hydrate all of that dry, irritated passages in your lungs, and it's going to encourage the body to release all that old residue. And so if you want similar lung support at home, either because you are quitting smoking or for some other reason, the best way to use it is going to be as a tea. You can actually smoke mullein to get mullein right into the lungs, but if you're going to stop smoking, why would you want to do that? You want to stop smoking. And so you definitely want to have this as a pretty long infusion, not a quick 3-minute steep. That's not long enough. I'm thinking like, 1 teaspoon, maybe 1 to 2 teaspoons, mullein's really fluffy, of herb into a cup of water. Do it in a large mason jar, so you're doing like 4 cups at once, and probably like a 30 to 60-minute steep, because we are going for medicine. We're not just like having a cup of tea with our friends at lunch. We are making herbal medicine, and I would probably start with 2 to 4 cups a day of that, and then reassess as time goes on. Add a little bit of marshmallow leaf if you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable. And if your lungs still feel like they're releasing a whole bunch, you got more places to go, more gunk to uncover in there, keep going, right? And if things calm down, maybe you can taper off, or maybe you're just going to drink mullein for the rest of your life because you need to take care of your lungs for the rest of your life. And of course, if you ever get red flags like fever, severe chest pain, difficulty breathing, or maybe mucus that's bloody or smells really foul or just gets drastically worse, that's probably when you'd want to check in with your doctor. So yeah, what Softy Fairy is experiencing over on Reddit, that's mullein doing it exactly what mullein does. So thank you, Reddit, for this question. And if you want your questions answered in this Ask the Herbalist segment, send me a DM or leave a comment. If it's a simple question with good context like this one, I can usually answer it. If it's more complex, or you have a complex health history that we need to consider, you can always book a consultation with me. Just head to herbalistkristen.com/herbal care. Yes, our official herbal clinic is up and running, and the herbalist is in. Okay, that brings us to our last segment, What's in My Cup. The What's in My Cup segment is where I can actually share the herbs and the wellness practices that are actually supporting me in my real life right now, so that you can see how plant medicine lives in the everyday. And as I shared in my last episode, I am currently on family leave, taking care of my sister out here in Northern California, and it really has turned my entire life upside down in a ton of different ways. The routines that I normally rely on are totally gone. My environment is totally different. My bandwidth is stretched in a way that I just never really expected, but I have settled into a rhythm now. And so something that has been supporting me lately is guided meditations. And I know that guided meditations have been around for a really long time. We have a ton of different apps. But I've just never really done them before, because I was formally trained in like Vipassana and yogic meditation styles. And so I don't know, I guess I thought I was too good for guided meditation apps because I'm a ridiculous person. We don't know what we don't know. But anyways, every night now I put in my little earplugs, because I sleep with earplugs, and then I put my big gamer headphones on, which is very chic, and I listen to like a guided relaxation or a hypnosis track. And sometimes I actually just fall asleep to it. Sometimes I turn it off right at the end, but it has made a huge difference to my stress levels. If you know my philosophy, you know that I am not an herbs only herbalist. I work with something called the Mandala of Wellness, where we make changes in the movement category of life, nutrition, rest, mindset, and herbs. And so even though I do have a daily herbal protocol, I have my sleepy herbs, I have lavender if I'm extra stressed, I have my bitters. It's not always that what I need is an extra tincture or an extra herbal tea. Sometimes I need a practice. And this all really clicked for me when I saw this post on Instagram from at Karina Orden, PhD. She's a behavioral change specialist, and she actually explains that most things that we call habits on the internet are not actually habits. And honestly, this blew my mind. So she says habits are automatic things. They're very cue dependent. You buckle your seatbelt when you get in the car. You pull your pants down when you get to the toilet, right? Those are habits. They happen without conscious thought, but things that the online community says are habits, like 10 habits to live by, like getting up early or exercising every day, those things are not habits. Going to the gym is not a habit. Having a consistent routine is not a habit. They are complex behaviors that require planning, flexibility, motivation, and emotional regulation. So when I say I want to build a habit of working out, we're actually kind of setting ourselves up to feel like we're failing, because really we're trying to do something that neurologically isn't a habit at all. And that post just completely hit me. It's almost like it struck me in the face with a bolt of lightning, because fitness and movement right now for me, especially as I'm in California, are parts of my wellness that feel the most undernourished in my life right now, and also the most desired by my body. So instead of forcing myself into some behavior change that I don't really have the capacity for, like I have to wake up and be a completely new person the next morning, instead, because of this post, I am using hypnosis and guided relaxation, guided meditation to build the identity around the person who has movement as such a super strong part of their daily lives. I'm building the identity and mindset that eventually will support the behaviors that I'm seeking to call into my life. And just in case you're wondering, I do it at night, not because it's the right time, but because it's the time I have. And that right there is a huge part of herbalism and wellness in general. Figuring out how to make the practices fit you and not the other way around. And the best part, I am sleeping better. I am eating a little bit better. I am moving a lot more. I'm working out more consistently. I am more grounded during a time where I don't have a lot of things to anchor me. And it's not out of force, but it's out of alignment. So it kind of feels like an upward spiral instead of a battle that I have to force myself through. So that is what is in my cup this week. Not an herb, but a practice that is helping me relax into a more supportive identity. So that is going to wrap up our episode today. Thank you so much for sticking around. Let me know in the comments if you like this new format. Send me a DM, reach out, and yeah, it's fun for me. I'm enjoying it. Okay, I love you guys.